I'm with Ghadeer al Najjar, who's just written a book. What's his book called and what's it about?
The guidebook is called Bethlehem, the Historic Center, and Bethlehemites in Jerusalem. It's talking mainly about the historic center of Bethlehem, designing routes, three different routes within the historic city center, starting with one main point, ending with another. We're talking about routes in culture, heritage, and pilgrimage, the trend that is always taking place in Bethlehem, but introducing the culture and history and stories of Bethlehem as well.
And what inspired you to write this book?
I was actually asked to write this book by DR publisher, and they already know that I have researches in this domain during my master's studies in tourism.
Are you from the Bethlehem area?
Actually, I'm from Beit Jala. I worked in the Bethlehem area for a long time, for about 7 years, in heritage documentation and preservation.
And how long did it take to actually complete this project?
Writing put everything together with very good quality of photos and maps, and the writings, trying to write more like a travel writer, took us 1.5 years, but collecting the whole information took me 7 years, and still taking part of the documentation that DR did already since years.
Now, is it aimed at just at tourists, or can locals get something from it as well?
I think locals can benefit from it because the documentation we have done is not documented anywhere elsewhere. We are documenting architecture, history, and oral history in the Bethlehem area, and it was not well documented before, so the locals can benefit as well as the tourists walking throughout the Bethlehem Historic City Center.
Was there a need for a book like this?
Definitely yes. It is too late to do a book like this even. This guide can help introduce the Historic City Center heritage, but also reconnect Jerusalem with Bethlehem. That's the most important part, that locals from Bethlehem don't even know anything about the stories of Bethlehemites and their ownership in the Jerusalem new areas, the very wealthy, rich areas before 1948. So that's another introduction to the Bethlehemites and the tourist.
And what aspects of Bethlehem does it focus on?
Mostly it focuses on the heritage, history, culture, and the activities anyone can contribute to, because we've talked about annual festivals and celebrations that are taking place between Jerusalem and Bethlehem.
Does it also look at the history of Bethlehem?
Definitely, yes. Well, the last chapter talks perfectly about Jerusalem and Bethlehem and the different eras and occupation that took place in the area. But talking about the Historic City Center, we talked about the architectural styles and the history of architecture reflected by the different eras that took place in the Bethlehem area.
And does this book open up tourists to places that they would never normally go to?
Yes. Tourism in Bethlehem is not very well promoted, so this guide is unique for promoting very unique sites that are not promoted or talking about by anybody else. So it gives you a complete idea about the history and the normal living and lifestyle in the Historic City Center of Bethlehem and the place where Jesus Christ was born. Even people are still cooking, having the same culture with some development, of course, like the eras where the story of the nativity place that is mentioned in the Bible.
Does this book start in Jerusalem, then come to Bethlehem?
So pilgrimage started once from Jaffa port, walking all the way and on camels, reaching Jerusalem and then to Bethlehem. So that's the very traditional pilgrimage Catholic route that used to take place. So I've walked again from the Jerusalem Old City, part of what was once introduced, from Jerusalem all the way through the Bethlehem Road, then the Jerusalem Hebron Road, going to Bethlehem, not looking to the occupations and the checkpoints that are taking place nowadays.
Do you ship the book abroad, or is this just locally for the Bethlehem, Jerusalem area?
We mainly ship the guide to the United Kingdom and the United States because the book was published in English, first of all, and we ship it to other parts of individual copies to other parts in Europe. We sell it in different parts of Palestine, in the northern part of historical Palestine, and Ramallah, Jerusalem, and Bethlehem mainly.
Now, I understand you've won an award for it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, before publishing the guide, I've won award at the Kafka conference for youth for the idea of bringing this guide to public.
So it must have been nice to be recognized even before you've written the book.
Yes, so that's one of the awards that I've got for this very good idea guide and this very small initiative that was published with a very small amount of money.
So with all the work that you've done to get this book to come together, what was it like for you seeing this book published for the very first time?
Seeing this book between the hands of tourists was my biggest success and happiness. Walking in the historic city center of Bethlehem, following the tourists holding these guides was really a very big success for me. This guide is aimed to help tourism in Bethlehem and the development of tourism in Bethlehem, and that's the main part that we are looking forward to.
It must be nice to see someone walking around with your book.
Yes, definitely. That was my real happiness, seeing the book with some tourists without promoting it to them even.
Yeah. Will this book make a difference?
I think it should be making a difference in the area because it's, first of all, one of a kind. It's the first of its kind. And it can help the tourists go all around and then give a perfect, beautiful idea about the historic city center of Bethlehem rather than just talking about the importance and the political side of Bethlehem that the Bethlehemites are already suffering.
Do you have plans to write more books?
I always have plans. I always have plans to develop the area and the management of the area and help people within the area living under occupation and under extraordinary circumstances to develop their area and help them revive. So I always have ideas. I'm working on another project nowadays and that documents the history more and bringing it to people in different ways, maybe another book.
What's your prayer for tourists as they use this book?
The cultural tourists that are looking for cultural sites to mingle at, that are looking for very special, unique heritage to look for within the historic city center.
Okay, Ghadeer, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.